Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is, wherever you are, welcome to the Good Values Podcast. In this episode, I'm speaking to a good friend of mine. I think the world of this person. They are creative, talented, kind, and very thoughtful. And I'm looking forward to showing you their work and hearing their philosophy. So in this episode, I'm talking to Petra Goetze, or as the British pronounce it, Petra Goetze. All right, let's take a look. From this point, if you're okay to introduce yourself to the audience for me.
Okay, also I am Petra Goetze, and I'm an artist in North Wales. I just finished my 3 years art degree course at Bangor, at Park Menai in Bangor. And my preferable medium is sculpture. So I did my final exhibition in my degree show. My final degree show I made a sculpture installation.
Okay, that's interesting. So, because when you say sculpture, it takes on several different media, doesn't it? It's not sculpture as in I work predominantly with clay, or I work predominantly with... So, what different media will you use for sculpture?
My starting point are mainly found objects. So I started with using found objects to create or to compose a certain sculpture.
Yeah.
And then I researched things, and I wanted to transform the found objects into something I didn't know yet what it would be.
Yeah.
And so I used a certain mixture of paper pulp and plaster and PVA to cover them, and it felt like, this act of fossilization.
Yeah.
Felt like transforming them through this cover I put around them, or coat I put on.
It is.
And finally, I thought I created a very nice texture with this kind of coat I put onto these found objects.
Am I right in thinking sometimes you combine found objects together as well before you add the pulp on top?
It's definitely.
A combination of things. Yeah.
Definitely, yes. As I combine the found objects with rusty structures, that's one thing. And on the other hand, I really try to compose a certain sculpture or a certain composition shape before I covered the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah. And I also saw, because I went to visit your exhibition for your degree show in Bangor recently, and it was fantastic. I loved it, as I mentioned to you, that everyone had its own personality, and they all had a way of how they related to each other in the space that they were occupying was interesting as well, because their coverage on the floor space that you'd used was also part of a patchwork of characters and interactions between the different pieces. But at the same time, you also had some hanging pieces. Can you tell us about the hanging pieces that you made?
Yes. There were two corners. On one corner, I was hanging these hand imprints I did with air-dried clay. And they relate to the idea we are always talking in terms of climate change, about our CO2 footprint.
Yeah.
But obviously we are making things with our hands, and of course I did my sculptures with my hands. And human beings are creating things and making things with their hands. And I was thinking of hand imprints instead of footprints. I don't know where this CO2 footprint comes from. I thought hand imprint is much better than a foot imprint. So I was hanging these hand imprints above a certain rusty sculpture, which is a structure of a school furniture from 1906. 1906.
Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful. And they all, because there was quite a lot of them as well, and they were different colours from white and brown. I mean, it wasn't different colours beyond white and brown, but because it was white and brown, it had this this lovely, again, kind of interaction between the tone of the brown and the white being just shapes, again, of the actual impressions that you made in the clay with your fist. But it was quite an interesting story you told me about how this came about. Would you mind sharing that story about how you actually came to make these sculptures?
Do you mean the story with the woman I shared?
Yeah.
Actually, the first time I used this hand imprint was in my previous module, when I did a project about my history in East Germany. And I referred to a photograph where people were carrying flagpoles, on a demonstration in East Germany.
Yeah.
And that's the first story about how did I come to this hand imprints holding this flagpole. So I put this clay around a stake or flagpole.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, yes, that's nice. This holding this flagpole, holding on to something, an old ideology, or it was all about ideology, and the flagpoles were standing for the 1st of May demonstration.
Yeah.
Which was for the socialism, for the ideology. But then the second story with the woman in my studio was she was sitting at her desk all day and forming little bits and pieces for her project. And
very meticulous work, you said. It's really
yes, she is really into this really small bits and pieces, and she sat for hours to make them. And I just thought, I could use some of this clay somehow, and I took 1 or 2 pieces. I bought some for myself and put it around this flagpole and just what is it?
Made
put
a fist.
My fist, made a fist and put this imprint there. And I said to her, look, 2 minutes done. And she was not really laughing. She was a bit upset, but she was upset because our tutor came in at the same time and said, oh, Petra, that looks interesting. And she totally ignored her, who was sitting for hours doing these little bits and pieces for her setting. Yeah,
I thought her exhibition was also lovely. We did discuss and cover her work. It was very impressive, little miniature impressions of dilapidated buildings and really nice work on fabrics and textures, and the way that she does drapery in clay was very impressive.
Yes, exactly.
But it was funny how quickly you could make something which was also almost kind of had a visceral reaction from people who viewed it, because it seemed to communicate to the viewer on a subconscious level.
That's what I thought. That was really interesting when I put the first pieces on there, when we set up our exhibition. Everybody who came into the studio said, oh, I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, wow, it's something, as you said, it's something about it which relates to our unconscious, because they look quite, I don't know how you would call it, organic or like.
You mentioned that you're originally from East Germany. Do you mind talking a little bit about East Germany and your...
No, not at all.
Okay. Please, if you can.
I rather prefer to talk about it because I realized how little people know about the eastern countries, or
Yeah.
life in Eastern countries. They always think, oh my God, even I mention I grew up in East Germany, everyone, how did you survive that? You know, it's always this kind of reaction, and I want to put things a bit more in relation to the
Yeah.
real thing. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in East Germany in the north near the Baltic, and I had a pretty good education and a happy childhood, or happy upbringing, I think. And for me, it was absolutely normal that girls and boys are treated the same way. So I had a really good education in school. I liked going to school. I enjoyed being in school. I enjoyed learning. And I did my A-level very easily, to be honest. And it was quite normal me going to university. So, yeah.
Was it a culture shock when you came to the UK to see the difference in the treatment of male and female individuals?
I think it was, actually. I only realized that in the last few years, talking to my partner about certain things, and I thought, pardon? That's normal.
Yeah.
This thing that women here, I noticed, maybe especially in Wales as well, they are either nurses or teachers, but that's it. You know,
Yeah.
That's what women do. Or they stay at home and care for the house and for the children. And I found myself, like thrown back to 20 years ago or 50 years ago even. I don't know, even more.
So what is it you see in East Germany then which you didn't see here? What's the role which women fill in East Germany? Was it?
I think it was very normal for us, for girls or women to go into higher education. We didn't have... It was normal. I mean, you could say on one hand, because women worked and had their children, and maybe in lots of families, maybe women were still the household person.
Yeah.
Me personally, in my family, my father and my mother, they always shared the jobs at home. I grew up like this. For me, it was a normal thing. My father did the cooking and my mother did other things. She did the washing, whatever.
Yeah.
It was shared, always shared, and they always wanted to spend time together. Maybe it wasn't the case in all the families, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it was much more normal. Women went to work and children went to a nursery or to a kindergarten. What I wanted to say about my upbringing in East Germany, there are two things. I mean, I grew up in a nursery, kindergarten, school. So really, the focus was learning how to behave in a group, which didn't appreciated the need of a child to be an individual as well.
Yeah.
I think the balance between individuum and team or collective, we called it, was much more weighted towards the collective thing, which has an advantage. I always learned to be with other people and to adjust my needs to other people.
Yeah.
But I had to learn later in my life to think, how do I feel? What do I want?
Yeah.
I had to learn that, which I think now it's the other direction. People know exactly what they want and exactly what they need and what they feel, but they are much less able to adjust to work in a group, I think.
No, I agree. I think that it's geared towards self-interest these days.
Yes, I think that's what I would describe as a very big a very big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, the focus was to learn to live with other people and to
consider how your actions affect others and how to benefit other people around you as opposed to gain advantage individually. I do agree with that. Because
I was thinking about it the other day. You know, lots of people in Germany, I know, they are going to psychotherapy, right? And I went to psychotherapy as well at a certain point, and reading lots of books because I was interested in psychotherapy. I was interested in psychology definitely when I got my children and things. And I wondered, this psychology was always focused on you have to learn what are your own desires or your own needs, your own feelings. And I think now it really goes in one direction, and I was thinking, does it serve our economy? Not being able to relate to other people, only to focus on your own path, on your own happiness or your own
fulfillment,
ideas of life. And that's what I think. It's a bit too much in that direction and not enough thinking excuse me, thinking of how do we live together. I think there are some movements now going in that direction. How do we learn to do things together? There is a group of artists. They just opened an exhibition in Chichester. I don't know if I pronounce that right.
Yeah.
And they started during pandemic to do Zoom meetings, and they decided to do a group exhibition. And all the emphasis when they were talking about the exhibition was on Instagram was talking how it is to work in a group. And I thought, okay, is it a new thing in these days to discover again, rediscover again how it is to work together in a group?
It does feel as though we've had a collective amnesia for a while due to either economic trends and pressures from societal norms where technology is introduced more, as we said, just more self-interested motivations as opposed to psychoanalysis, which you mentioned, which I can imagine would make you more introspective, which would be healthy to actually explore your own motivations and desires. And then
go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, and then to, reflect upon how that affects others.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's about the balance, isn't it? You need both. You need this self-reflection and knowing what you need yourself, but also what is it in relation to the other people I'm living with. I mean, I heard people saying here with the Thatcher era, lots of this selfish behavior started, or her politics encouraged rather this single-minded, or I don't know, self-sustainable, being self-sustainable and ignoring we are social human beings and we need a community, really.
We should go back to artwork for a moment, if it's okay with you.
Yes.
So you also did an exhibition in Carnarvon, which I wasn't able to attend. Can you talk to us about what you exhibited there?
Yeah. In the second year of my degree, we did a project about Carnarvon and the environment, environment around Carnarvon, really. Yeah, around Carnarvon. And I researched quite a lot about the history, but then I came across these different wells, holy wells actually, and the pilgrimage and because I did a pilgrimage in Spain, you know, the big
Did
pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela. And when I came to Wales, I did quite a lot of walking on the... There are different passes here, the Office Dyke and the pass, the coastal pass around Anglesey, the coastal pass along North Wales. So I researched quite a lot, and my friend at that time, he knew quite a lot of old churches, and he was researching about the old Celtic church and the transition from the Celtic, not religion, but the Celtic culture to the Christian religion. So I thought I'm doing a project about pilgrimage. And then I learned about certain wells where people walked towards to do some... I mean, wells were always the final place people did their pilgrimage towards to make a wish or to use water, fresh well water to refreshments, but also to heal. You know, they believed well water would heal certain diseases or things. And I learned about wells where you put some pins in.
I'd not heard of that.
Yes, and either make a wish or these needles, they prick their... Are they warts?
Yeah.
Prick the warts, and taking some sheep's wool, and then they throw that into the well and made a wish, and they hoped to be healed, you know.
Wow.
So I found that quite interesting. So I tried to combine my own experience of pilgrimage, which was quite interesting,
Yeah, absolutely.
with these old rituals people did in the old days, or still do. I mean, in Spain, gosh, how many people did I meet there doing a pilgrimage from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France over the Pyrenees, along from the east to the west of Spain to Santiago de Compostela. I mean, wow,
Wow. People from all over the world, I can imagine, joined in the pilgrimage.
Yes.
But what was the work that you produced for the Carnarvon exhibition?
I collected sheep's wool from fences, and I was spinning a certain amount of wool, also of a long thread of wool.
Yeah.
And connected them to stones. As I kind of created a well with pins inside and using the sheep's wool connected to the wall. So it's and the idea of a pilgrimage is also to step out of your entanglements of your daily routine. Because, I mean, people say traveling helps to get out of your routine and to reset your mind, or to learn something outside your daily experiences.
Yeah.
And that's what you do on a pilgrimage. So I created some entanglements with textile, as with fabric, and and I called it entanglements. And on your pilgrimage, it should, or there is a chance, not it should, there is a chance to make things clearer. You know, when you just walk every day, and you are only caring for having enough water and enough food, and you know you will have an accommodation where to stay. Your head is suddenly free for other things. Focus is rather on sculptures now, and working with my hands. But I still like challenging myself to draw, because I'm not a drawing person in the first place. And it's not really comfortable for me because I always think I can't draw. And my sketchbooks are just full of sketches, line drawings like a child, really.
I think it's really admirable that because your work doesn't include drawing, that you push yourself outside of your comfort zone to practice and try drawing. And we had a time where, you and I would meet online for me to try to show you ideas that I use to draw, which I just think is really, I don't know, it's very rare that people will do that. And it's something which I'd like to do for the things which I don't engage with regarding art, because I'm naturally inclined towards drawing before anything else. And I would have liked to have been guided around more abstract art making from university, and that didn't happen there. I'm still open to broadening my horizons regarding art making as well, but inspired by what you did, really.
No, I'm using this hour every Monday to draw now for my new project, to draw things I'm interested in, and it really calms my mind down. This is one thing. But it also gives me ideas which direction I could go towards somehow. And I'm enjoying myself, actually, this hour. I wouldn't sit down myself. Maybe now I've got more time on my hand, maybe I would. But it really forced me to sit down and to take that time to look closer, and that's what I really like about it. Suddenly, when I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper into the picture, or it depends what I'm drawing, either a proper object, sometimes I'm drawing from photographs as well. And suddenly I see so much more detail, and I really enjoy doing the drawings.
Because with your art,
even I'm not really good.
No, I don't know. I've seen artwork from you where you've drawn things which I think have a presence to them which I struggle to achieve, because I'm very set in my ways in certain ways as far as drawing. I'll approach things some ways and then I will start applying light and shadow. Whereas I've seen you do drawing where you're not using these tools which I have built in to try to fix a drawing where it's gone awry, and instead you will create this, I don't know, cohesion within the drawing, which I struggle to do because I have so many fiddly little rules that I'm trying to apply and heighten in certain areas and pull back in others. So I still see, I remember the one which you did on toned paper where it was, I think it was red, pastel and white, and you had a teapot and a table of things. I love that drawing, and I said to you at the time, I really love that drawing. I think that's a lovely, that should be framed somewhere. So that's a fantastic piece that you did. And things like that, I think,
thank you.
Comes from artists like yourself, which I struggle to do. And it just has this reality to it, which I'm trying to be too strict when I'm trying to describe reality. And you are seeing it through your own lens, I suppose, and you don't have the same strictness.
No, I only use it as a source, really. Maybe it's different. You want to transform it into an artwork. For me, it's just a source. When I'm drawing, let's say, a piece of machinery. Or piece of my piece. No, when I created my degree show, I tried to draw pieces to have an idea of the composition, because I don't know so much about a composition which is working good. So I have to try things out. I'm using like photography. I'm using photography and drawing rather as a tool for me to go towards my sculpture. Sorry.
What do you see as far as your future of art making?
That's a good question. I mean, I did find myself enjoying very much making things with my hands and making sculptures. That's for sure. It's really something I was happy every single minute I did this job. But the question I ask myself at the moment is how to establish myself as an artist.
I see.
I have no idea.
To sort of find the marketplace for your work, is that?
Yes, and I mean, I was quite envious. Some people of our degree show, they already sold their stuff. I mean, how lucky are they, or how happy they must be? And I'm aware, I think what I'm producing isn't necessarily somebody would put in their garden or into their living room or something. I'm aware of that. I'm not, but if I produce artwork, let's say, related to climate change or our environment and things, they are not necessarily artwork to sell. You can't approach small galleries who are interested in selling things. So where is my niche? Or, how do I don't know, maybe the sculptor's drawing space is a place to connect to other artists, but I also notice they're all white, middle class, well established, having a proper education. They have already their network, or they are part of the Royal Society of Sculptors. So how do you get there? I wonder.
There's a big difference between commercial success and reaching private collectors. And then there's also, I've heard artists whose work is better suited towards residencies in certain galleries, because people couldn't really, well, they could, but they're not so inclined to purchase those types of artworks. They're more for exhibition and hold a residency at certain establishments. And it's, I suppose, trying to create a body of work where you are now identified as this type of narrative that you weave throughout all of your sculptures, that people will identify the philosophy, the technique, and the voice that is heard through those works. But that can take a decade. That's what I've heard of. I mean, longer than a decade, really, but I've heard that a decade is an amount of time in practice art until you've created this recognizable voice through your work, which is quite daunting, because a decade of creating work without commercial success yields a lot of barriers for how you can manage your time and stay afloat doing this type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, how much can I make without having a proper storage? If I'm doing sculptures, I have to put them somewhere. And then if there is a call for an exhibition, they normally want you to deliver this in 1 month's time or something, but making things takes time, so you have to make things in advance to serve certain, I don't know, briefs or certain themes of exhibitions. I found myself a bit overwhelmed by all these thoughts, how to deal, but maybe, as I said, it's a bit too early to think about it, and maybe I just try to produce some kind of work, which I think it could be outstanding, but that's the other question, how much outstanding. Everything should be outstanding and special and universal and, or unique.
It's a lot of lofty requirements for someone who's a creative person to try to meet those standards. Can be too much to actually, to take that first step of creating a piece of work. You almost need to be liberated from those pressures in order to be, mentally and emotionally free to explore what it is that you want to create. But I don't have good answers for that, but I'm again quite optimistic for you, for your future, because I see the potential in your work and the the drive which makes them produced. And you have sold a couple of pieces, or you sold a piece in of your bats. So,
Yes.
and I'm surprised
But
that you...
what? Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say,
No,
I'm surprised you didn't sell the grips, because didn't you have those for sale at your exhibition when they were...
No, I didn't. No.
No.
What about you? I mean, how do you see yourself? Do you want to sell your drawings, or what is your idea?
The struggle that I have is that people who do fine arts don't really draw and paint unless it's concept-based work. And my work is usually, I just make it without having a concept beforehand, and I'm hoping that some concept will shine through it when I've created enough work. So I'll create classic landscapes, as I started when you and I visited St Mary's Well and Chapel recently, where I'd be interested in painting that fully and then taking it to a gallery, and I need to keep creating. So I'd like my work to be in galleries, but if not, I'd like to have it framed here so that it's respected and preserved and exhibited in a way which is not just on a piece of paper or on a canvas, just loose. And at the same time, I'm hoping that my YouTube channel will help me to, I suppose, create work, but also create a dialogue around the production and the creation and the discussion within artwork that I think is has been lacking from my education, and is part of something which I really value in artists, when you can discuss with them using common language that we all understand when we create. And if someone isn't an artist, they sort of frown and find it strange that we use these lofty terms to describe something which might seem just like play to them. But to us, we know that it takes a lot to actually, try to render something with a specific intention. I want that to be a dialogue that I can have with the wider world through my channel.
Yeah, I think you are very good in teaching. I'm sure you should, or you could follow that path.
Thank you.
When I watched some of your YouTube videos.
Yeah. Programs is good. Did you like the...
I really liked them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't ask you when you mentioned that you'd watched the one on hatching. I should have asked you. I thought afterwards I was just blurted out, "Oh, I quite like that one myself," and I didn't ask you. You quite enjoyed it then, did you?
I did, yes, and I was really inspired to do to do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's very clear, very slow, very well. I don't know. I found it really friendly for the consumer, also for the watcher. Very, yeah.
Oh, this is all very flattering for me, so thank you very much. It's very
also
nice.
Your voice and your way how you did it, I think that's definitely one path you should follow.
Excellent. Well, that's nice to know. Thank you, because it's sometimes more important to find how other people view you as opposed to what you aspire to do, without hearing other people tell you what your strengths and weaknesses are. Speaking of strengths and weaknesses, I've got a question that I'd like to ask. It's something which I ask in every episode, even though this is going to be something like episode 3, I believe. But it's going to be a thing.
Oh, what is that?
It is. It's quite a challenging question, but it's, what do you like and what don't you like about the work that you've been creating, about your artwork?
The finished artwork, or making the artwork? The finished artwork.
I'd say the finished artwork, because that way you're analysing the positives and negatives, what you see in your own work, which I think is a very important quality for artists to have.
Okay.
What do you like
Right.
first?
Yes. I think what I really like is the texture of the pieces I made for my degree show. It's a very intriguing texture. It implies, or could imply, so many different things. Some people thought when I lifted this to move it from one place to another, said, "Oh, I thought it's really heavy," but you just took it up lifted it up like this.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. But also you really want to touch that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
this texture makes you wanting to touch the thing. And it also looks, it could be concrete, it could be limestone, it could be coral reef, it could be barnacles, I don't know what else, but it's, if I painted it brown, remember when we went for a walk and you took a picture of this
that
rusty
post.
pole?
Yeah.
Yes, that post.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could
stain
recreate that kind of, I could stain it or create a similar texture, but maybe my texture is already a bit like that. But yes, I would like to develop that a bit more, but also maybe I could, some people said, oh, couldn't you exhibit these pieces out in a garden, in a, and I said, no, they are not waterproof. So I was thinking of using concrete instead of paper, pulp and plaster. And I worked with concrete before, which I quite like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the second half of the question, which is a bit more tricky, is what don't you like about the work that you've been creating?
What don't I like? Yeah. I mean, we talked about it before. I'm not quite sure about my compositions. I really struggled to compose the piece in the first place. To have an interesting shape, which I wanted to cover afterwards. I found that very difficult. I used given shapes already in some points, but in other pieces I created from the scratch, or it just happened. I think, like, Frida Barlow is one of my heroes. She seemed to be so experimental and so playful. I think I'm not there yet, to follow the material. Many artists, they follow the material and follow the process. I still feel I'm a bit too controlled, to go really into the flow, to create some free pieces, which really developed from working on it again and again. But maybe that's the point. When I finished my pieces for my degree show, I thought, I have so many other ideas. It's just a starting point now. So maybe that's what I should do, continuing, experimenting with.
Yeah, developing this process. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, okay, because we're coming towards the end, this is the last question that I'd like to ask you, which is, what's the most beautiful thing you've seen today?
Gosh. I think at the moment in high summer, I don't know the name of the plant, but we have them everywhere in our garden. They are coming out of the gaps between the house and the stone tiles.
Yeah.
I think, is it Welsh stock? Do you call it Welsh stock?
I'm terrible at
They
any
are pink.
Oh, really?
They have this pink, white, and there is a color in between. It's an amazing red color.
Wow.
I love so much. It isn't a fire brigade red.
Yeah.
It's something between red and pink, something in between.
Oh, lovely.
And this color against the grey sky, the dark grey sky, I think that's what I saw today in the morning when I went into the car.
That's a fantastic answer. That's excellent.
Yeah. So these two, I think it's this combination of these two colors and the green, the summer green.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. That's a fantastic answer. I really appreciate the conversation that we've had. I think that's really nice and useful for people to listen to. And I do want to have you back on again in the future, maybe after a couple more exhibitions, so that we can discuss your post-university life as an artist and your journey. Yeah. But thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast.
Okay, and thank you, Simon, for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Okay, that is the episode done. Now, I love that conversation, and I really enjoyed how we kind of wandered through different things based on philosophy, our preference with our production, and the different events that Petra has had this year and last year. And I hope that you enjoyed it too. If you do like her work, then please check her out at Atinder Art, and that's on Instagram. And I'm hoping to have her back on this channel again. I'd really like to do an artist profile on her work as well, to really explore a little bit more in detail her production and her approach to these types of pieces that she makes, and her philosophy a little bit more as well, because I thought that was really interesting. So if you did enjoy it, please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell, and I will see you in the next episode.